Alrighty, so let's start fishing. When we look at this bead of water where we're in a beautiful little almost hemlock area, and we're going to fish up through this part of the run, which is not ideal, but it's still pretty good. And then we're going to get up into the riffles and a nice bend where you get another great long riffle. I suspect that we'll be able to catch quite a few fish in here, but most importantly, what we're going to do is we're going to showcase, going as thin as possible and as light as possible for the win. So as they say in the Euro nymphing game, thin to win. And that can mean a variety of things. It could mean, going thin on your leaders, thin on your rod, thin on your flies. There's so many different things, and today what I'm hoping is that we're going to try to coalesce almost all of those, fishing size 16 or less, fishing 6x tippet on a 1-weight rod, and really trying to put this system to the test. So let me get everything exactly set up and fine-tuned to what I like, and then we'll go over the setup. So what we've got out here today is a Diamondback Ideal Nymph. It's a 10-foot 1-weight. It's the thinnest rod I've ever fished. I've paired it with their Ideal Nymph series, which honestly I have heard nothing but good things, hence the video title, but nothing but good things about this rod, in particular the 1-weight, and how it just has incredible ability to handle fish, but in particular control of your cast, as well as delicacy of being in contact and feeling things. Obviously the maker with Joe Goodspeed, if you know anything, he helped design the Thomas & Thomas Contact 2. And that's considered one of the best rods, and people talk about how this rod is basically at a punching weight of something very similar to that price point, while being more in the middle tier of cost overall at about $525. With that said, the thing that surprised me the most is that I got their Ideal Nymph series reel. I have an ESN. I considered getting a Galvin, but the thing I've been most surprised with is how much I like this reel. I'm not surprised that it pairs well, given that it's super light and it's built to go with this specific make. But at the end of the day, it's got a very small little almost like fighting butt, and then just the section that it's got right here is very small and compact. I really like that they have, instead of like just a balanced reel where it's like even on both sides for the actual mount, it's actually much more apt to be longer here, and again compact overall. One of the things that is probably most impressive that somebody else noticed as well whenever I went in to get it spooled at Backwater Angler, Hudson noticed, and I totally agree, and it's something that I picked out as well, but he pointed out the fact that the lowest guide is much lower than most traditional rods. And when Joe designed this, I'm sure he would speak to a lot of the different components for why he would build it the way he did. But I know that for Euro nymphing, what we want is, like, after and I'll just make a little cast here. We'll make a little water haul cast, water load, we'll send it out. But what you want is the ability to really get in contact, there we go, in contact quick, but most importantly, you want to be able to feel that line as tight as possible to the rod and basically be able to get to it very quickly. Oftentimes with Euro nymphing rods, if that guide is higher up, sometimes what we do is we fumble the line to find it. And yes, the leader build and all of that for what you choose to put on it, it matters, absolutely. And in this case, we've got a, come on. This poor fish, I couldn't get that hook out of him. Usually that barbless hook slides out, but he got himself pretty good. Cool colors on that guy. There he goes. But what I was saying is that, like, depending upon your leader, because I have fly line out. This is Orvis, I believe it's Hydros Tactical Nymph or something to that effect. But if nothing else, it's their Euro nymphing series line. But what I really want to be able to do is quickly transfer, as soon as that fly hits the water, I want to be able to transfer it from my right hand to what would then be my left trigger finger and tuck it right underneath. And I really have the ability to do that quite well with this line. There's another eat. With this line and the way the rod is built. So I commend Diamondback for what they did, being able to get basically your rod guide as low as possible in delivering a quality product. Not only do I love how thin this rod is and how light it is, and as a result, you're gonna have a lot less fatigue if you pair and marry the rod with the right reel, and here you've got this light rod. It's gonna lead to a lot of great days on the water where you feel like you're basically fishing with air almost. It's pretty impressive. areas where I like fish to be, right over here by this rock. It's unfortunate that that log got plugged to it, but that's a gift and a curse. For a streamer fisherman, that's a good thing. But to the nymph angler, I just spooked a fish right out here. But to a nymph angler, it's not the best. So we'll cast to the back side of this rock, both sides of it, and we'll try to see if we can't coax a brownie out of it somewhere. But, you know, just hitting the little hydraulic cushions from both sides, the little soft pockets where these fish can be kind of sitting and feel fairly protected. It's a little better right off of that rock now. There's the take. Good cast. Damn, I had him. It was paused and I felt it and I should have set. User error back to back. Bad cast, kind of lobbed it, and then on top of that ended up in a cross current and seam. Not good. Let's try this again. There we go. That's better. And there's that fish. Super delicate takes today. Super delicate. But that's what happens with that thin to win. Hook's already out. You know, he was sitting right there and he just tapped it both times. I mean, and when I say tap, I don't mean I literally felt like tap, tap, tap. That does happen. But when I say tap, I mean there was just a little bump where it slowed. And that hesitation, that pause, a lot of times is just the amount of information you need. And yeah, he had grabbed it multiple times and I just couldn't get a hook set into him. But that time, thankfully, I was able to register that same tap and get the hook set. So that's positive. So one thing about our hook sets in this little spot is, you know, with fighting fish, we want to keep them down and we want to basically control the fight in a way that they don't spit the hook. But no matter what fish I catch in this particular run, you know, with the fact I've got a log right here, I've got no choice but to immediately force the head downstream. And if it's a smaller than average fish, I can kind of hoax it and coax it right over the log. And if it's a bigger fish, I just kind of have to steer that head and hope to get them away from the log, because there is no way you want any type of, you know, average to slightly above average fish putting you into this log. That's a recipe for disaster. Make another cast or two. Right over the log, and it's okay if we lose them. Another one of those type of bumps where it just kind of pauses. That line just kind of moves forward. There's another one. But back to the whole, you know, you get your system doing what you want with thin line, thin leaders, thin rods, thin flies. You can get things down quick and you can really register just about everything, even if you don't feel it all. You don't always feel it. Again, that's always a misconception with Euro nymphing, is how much you feel your takes. You know, certainly there are elements of that, and on a rod like this, you feel a lot more than what I do traditionally on maybe a 3 or a 4 weight, if I'm being honest. But at the end of the day, it's a lot more on sight. You know, and trying to make sure that you see what that sighter does, and is it moving forward? Is it pausing? You know, is it doing anything unnatural? Because as soon as it does, you got to set. And in this case, it was bottom, but that was what the big fish do, or it just kind of pauses. You know, it typically will pause on a good fish, and it'll almost jump when it's a smaller fish, I find. But thankfully, I really like some of the water coming up, and I might even make some fly changes just to see if we can go a little smaller. We talked about thin to win. We'll put on a 16 and an 18, something like that. There you go, a little brownie. Really colored up, nice and orangish yellow fish here. Love them. Look at all those reds. All right, let's keep it moving. See if we can't pick up a couple more fish throughout this piece of water. There we go. nice fat one. Looks out. Nice little fat wild brownie. You know, these one weights are picking up the strikes, no doubt about it. And the great part is too, with what we've got, we talked about the rod build, and you know, the guide, the way that it's compact here, the down locking reel seat's always important, but the balance and then the rod guide is part of it. But the other piece is with this one weight in particular, I can feel that it's pretty stout through the middle, and especially by the butt section. But the other thing that's really, really nice about it is that tip of this rod is super sensitive, and most importantly, gives just the right amount of flex to help bury that hook on your hook set. So I really, when I'm fishing nymphs and I give a firm strike into a fish that I think has eaten, I really do tend to embed it pretty good into these fish, and I find that my hookup ratio is not only good, but then I don't lose a ton of fish if I fight them appropriately. So we're gonna work the further part of this river. We've kind of worked the middle pretty good and caught a couple fish out of it, but we haven't really hit that far side yet, right over there. So we'll see if anything's playing. I just had a little take, registered that. Good. He was just kind of sitting right there in that soft pocket between two lanes of current. We were able to get a nice cast and tuck it right in there, but most importantly, immediately kind of get our flies in line and in tow, and as a result, we registered a take, able to set. That soft rod tip was able to do its job, and we were able to net another wild brown. There's a vicious take. Thankfully, one followed right behind. But yeah, I mean, right off of that log, there's just such good current coming off of that, where it's not too fast, it's not too slow. You know, it's got good depth, and as a result, should hold fish. And thankfully, sure enough, it did. Right there. So let's put it right back in there. You know, we are, because I know it gets distorted on the video. If this is a 10-foot rod, I'm probably casting 25 feet, I bet. And that goes back to, with the right tools, like a micro leader, you know, water hauled cast, this thin line, thin fly line, and everything just being able to be cast from a distance. But most importantly, you know, the key difference between maybe when I use Maxima and other videos, if I'm using almost an all-sighter based system or monofilament that's nice and thin, tapered correctly, I can make a cast that's easily, you know, 20 to 25, maybe even 30 feet, and elevate it off the water as soon as it hits. Like right now, I already can see the sighter and what I needed to do to register a take, but I'm doing that from a great distance, and as a result, I'm putting feet and miles between, you know, me and the fish, and that gives me a supreme advantage to be able to, you know, fish from further distances, make these clean casts, and be able to catch fish that otherwise may be spooked if I got any closer. So let's keep moving up. We're gonna slide out to do so and fish a little bit more. We talked about, I believe when we started the video, right back here, we said we would work up through this and then up to the head of this run and see where it lands us. So let's do exactly that and move up. Good flows, good depth. There he is. Took the waltz. Really dark fish, because again, they sit in their dark lanes. And they really, hands are still wet from the last fish. They really don't come out into the sunlight very often, so very cool. The other thing I like about these patterns with the waltz, when it's ribbed and the the green weenie is they're very, very durable. Good materials and stuff that protects yourself throughout the course of a day. There's another take. Bottom. There we go. Another one for the waltz. There's that thin to win, you know, really not much to it. I'll showcase it real quick on camera as soon as we get him off. So let's showcase our flies real quick. Let's show you what we've been using. What we've got on right now is a waltz worm up top. This is a size 16 and it's got a 2/8 bead on it. So it's still pretty small. You know, I think anytime you're 16, 18, 20, you're pretty thin. Anything close to 10, 12, 14, you're getting a little heavy. And if you wanted to fish a single 14, it would work. But realistically, I'd rather fish a 16 and an 18, 2 16s, maybe 2 18s. Something like that when we're in this kind of like, you know, basically shin deep water. But we've got just a simple waltz, silver bead, traditional kind of like hare's ear colored body. I've ribbed it with a UTC in small and it's just silver. Super simple to tie, super easy to fish. And then finally down the bottom, we've got a very durable but also very effective green weenie. It's a pattern that actually I just started tying literally yesterday, and thankfully it's been very productive. The waltz worm has been good to me for years and years and years and years. I think it's been good to any fly angler, but the green weenie is a little bit more seasonal, and I personally have not fished it, but the results today have been warranted to say I should be fishing it more in the summer. But right now, those are the two flies, and when there's another bite, when we've put it in a line of current where a fish should be sitting and picking off bugs, and we've done it in a manner that's dead drifted and we're in contact, we've been able to catch quite a few fish. So even though we got hung up just right back there with just a bit too much weight in that one specific little part of the run, you know, this whole, again, thin to wind mantra, it's finding the happy medium of, you don't want to be too deep where you're ticking the bottom all the time, and you don't want to be too thin where you almost never touch it. Although this time of year, you know, or in the height of spring, fish are looking up, so you don't need to be specifically on the bottom. But next, we're back into another, you know, somewhat thinnish piece of water. I suspect we could probably catch, you know, maybe 2 to 4 more in here. I like the middle part of this run. I could see 1 or 2 coming out of there. I like the head of the run where they converge and you've got some faster current, and I really like off of that rock. I could see that being a good spot for, you know, this one weight to be able to stick a fish. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to catch one that's, you know, maybe average or slightly more. That way we can put some bend in it. But overall, these little guys, it's been able to register the takes, fight them adequately, and really put us in a position to catch, thankfully, a bunch of fish with good technique on a really quality rod. Lost that one. Just kind of missed that take by being just a little late. Nice and dark guy. There we go. Perfect. Right into that part. Right into that run where it was soft and I was able to get a slow ride, and sure enough got the eat, but pulled it off the bottom and missed him. Hook set was just off. Let's put it in a softer seam where you know, the fish are more apt to be sitting. Oh, Didn't make the cast I wanted, but certainly caught the fish I wanted. Or at least hooked. I can't say caught. But this one weight is absolutely, I mean, here, we'll display it for you. I'll take a look at what the rod's doing. It's keeping that C in the rod that you want when you're fighting fish, especially when you're trying to help steer, you know, an average or slightly above average fish. Not necessarily this one's above average. This is an average fish for this river, but I'm bringing it up because as you start to catch, you know, slightly better fish on this rod, you know, one weight certainly is going to feel like you're outmanned. And I think when you get into, you know, the class of 20 and up, yeah, you're going to feel a little bit of a difficulty, but inevitably, I've seen a lot of people talk about, this is a really quality fat fish too. I've seen a lot of people on different forums talk about their ability to, you know, handle nice fat eager fish right there. Be able to handle really quality fish on this rod, whether it's the 1 weight or the 2 weight. I opted to get the 10-foot 10 2 weight and the 10-foot 1 weight. That way I had a little bit of versatility between the two, and extra length, but also extra backbone if I ever wanted to go a little bit more versatile. But also if I knew that I was going to nymph exclusively, I felt like this would be my best setup. And in particular for the river that I guide and fish a ton, it seemed like a really optimal, you know, setup for what I knew I'd be doing more often than not. So let's get these flies back in the water. We'll try to get another couple drifts through that line, but we didn't really hit this one quite as well as what I would have liked. All right, let's set it up. Nice long cast into the head up there. All right, let's try to wrap this up. I think the last piece of water we're going to try to hit, since we fished this and we're getting ready to get into, I mean, maybe we can make a few casts up there, but realistically, again, I think that we've been able to showcase the rod in a light that, you know, is positive. I really do like this rod. This is something where I've not been asked to do any, you know, partnership with them. I don't have any stake in the game where, you know, I'm getting anything for doing this. I really just am trying to pass along information so that way somebody else, you know, can benefit and catch fish like what I'm doing today. So if you decide that you really like one, head on over to a dealership that carries them. You can grab them, you know, as well from Diamondback. It's one of those things where it's a great rod, great company, really brilliant designer, and they deserve a lot of credit